Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Today, our group will present our study on daily expenses by students at CFS cafes. But first of all, let us introduce ourselves. My name is Muhammad Adam Aman bin Suhaimi as the group leader, and here is my team members.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Haris Salihin bin Sharif and I am from section 826.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Ahmad Fahmi bin Mahdi and I'm from section 826.
Hello, madam and fellow classmates of 826. I'm Muhammad Jamshid bin Jarani and
Assalamualaikum. My name is Imran Haziq bin Ana Mazuki and I'm from section 826. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. So nowadays, managing food daily expenses is really important in students' life, especially for those at Center for Foundation Studies, that is CFS. For most students, the cafe on campus are go-to option for meals. These cafes have different menus and price, so things like affordability, accessibility, and whether the food meets the student preference are really important to think about it. So these studies do add some key issues like how limited the menu options, inconsistent price, and the personal preference for students. These factors can influence how students manage their money, their eating habits, and even their overall lifestyle. So the main goals of this study are to figure out how much students are spending on food daily and see how often they visit the cafe and which cafe they like most and why, and to know how affordability impacts the students' habit. So to collect the data, a survey was shared through Google Forms using a convenience sampling method. A total of 63 students of CFS has responded and giving a good mix of their perspective.
There are two types of variable in our study. First, it is quantitative variable and qualitative variable. There are two types of quantitative variable in our study. First, it is daily food expenditure in RM. Second, it is daily visits student to the cafe. For qualitative variable, there are three types of qualitative variable in our study. First, it is the most visited cafe for student, such as Cafe TM or Cafe Aisyah. Second, it is factor of choice of cafe, such as price, variety, and location. For third, it is student favorite time to have meal at cafe, such as lunchtime or dinner time. From the survey that conducted among 63 students, the raw data are shown below. Last week, they are calculate is 4.33, but it is equal to 5. The data is grouped in table. The frequency is determined by counting the raw data and within the class limit. As you can see at the table, the sum of fx is 808. Meanwhile, the sum of fx square is 11,878. From the table, we can calculate mean, mode, and median. For mean, the value that we calculate is 12 ringgit and 83 cents. For median, the median class is 9 to 13, and the value for median is 12 ringgit and 2 cents. For mode, the model class is 9 to 13. And the value for mode is 11 ringgit and 38 cents. Besides from calculate the mode, mean, and median, we also can calculate the variance and standard deviation. The variance that we got is 24.44, and for standard deviation that we calculate, we got the value of 4.94.
Based on our main variable, we have constructed three graphs. First, this is our histogram. As we can see, the shape of the distribution of this histogram is right skewed. That means that the most of the data is located on the left of the distribution. Also, the tail is extended to the right, so it is right skewed. The next is, I want to talk about the most frequency of the data. That is, the highest frequency of the data is recorded is 32. That is located at the class limit of 9 to 13 ringgits. However, the lowest frequency is located at the class limit of 24 to 28 and 29 to 33. that is 1% of each class limit.
Firstly, I would like to interpret about the frequency polygon, which shows the daily food expenses of students at CFS cafes from a sample of 63 students. 32 of the students would regularly use near 11 ringgits to eat at these cafes, which show that most students would probably spend 5 to 7 ringgit meals a day, which is a reasonable amount of money to be spending on food here in CFS. I would also say that nearing 16 ringgits spent by 15 people is also a reasonable amount of people to be spending that amount of money on food here, as some people would have more pocket money than the majority of people. As we go high in expenses, we can see that 5 people spend their money near 21 ringgits on food, where they would most likely use the money to buy 3 meals a day. Now, when we see this graph, it looks like 2 people will respectively use near 26 ringgit and near 31 ringgits, which is diabolical, as no one should be spending that high in a day. Sorry to say for you guys who do this, but we should actually stop this behavior, as we shouldn't be needing to spend that amount of money in CFS daily. We should instead be taking notes from the people who spent the least, with a number of 9 students spending near 6 ringgit every day. Those people should be well respected and be followed, so that we as CFS students can save our money for our better future.
So the OGIF show the daily food expense of CFS student. So what is OGIF? OGIF really help us understand how many students spend below certain amount on food. So as we can see, the x-axis represent a upper class limit of food spend, while the y-axis represent the cumulative frequency, which is total student up to that point. So the curve move upward, showing that the increasing in total of student. So 41 students spend 13 ringgit less per day, while 56 students spend 18 or less per day. Almost all students, which is 63 total, spend 33 ringgit or less. The fastest rise is between 9 ringgit to 30 ringgit, meaning more students fall in this spending range. So what does this mean? This means more students will spend between 9 ringgit to 13 ringgit daily. Very few students spend above 23 ringgit. The curve flattens near the end, showing that high spenders are rare. The data will help us understand affordability and spending habit among CFS students. So the conclusion is that the OGIF show the most students have moderate food expense. Very few students which exceed 23 ringgit per day. So this data actually can help us in budget planning and assessing cafe affordability.
Next, we'll proceed to the result and discussion of our studies. First, let me interpret to you about our pie chart that we constructed on the most preferred cafes by CFS students. First, Cafe Aisyah Fatimah has recorded 46% or 29 of our respondents who likes this cafe. This is due to the varieties of menu that is provided by this cafe. The second most favorite cafe in the CFS is Cafe Azda Umamah and Cafe NTM. These two cafes has an approximate percentage of students who likes them. That is 22.2% of our respondents likes Cafe Azda Umamah and 19% likes Cafe NTM. Next, Cafe Biruni has recorded 7.9% or 5% of our respondents prefer this cafe. This is because the location of Cafe Biruni is distant from the classes. However, only 3% or 4.8% of our respondents prefer Cafe Student Center. This is because the slightly expensive price range that is provided by Cafe Student Center. Last but not least, Cafe R&R and Cafe HNC has recorded that none of our respondents who prefer this cafe. This is because the highly expensive price range that is provided by this cafe. Overall, I can conclude that the most favorite cafes by CFS students is Cafe Aisyah Fatimah, while the least favorite cafes by CFS students is Cafe R&R and Cafe HNC.
The bar chart show the count of how many times students visit the cafe in a day. So most of the student or 42 of respondent will go to the cafe 2 times per day. Usually, the student will visit cafe during lunch hour and also dinner hour. Next, 14 of the respondent tend to visit the cafe once per day. This type of student probably tend to thrifty with their budget. Meanwhile, only 5 respondents will go to cafe 3 times a day. This is during breakfast, lunch and dinner time. Lastly, only 2 combined respondents will visit the cafe 6 times a day and also 4 times a day respectively. These 2 students probably have higher budget for them to spend more on food at the cafe. Overall, the findings show that most of the students prefer to visit cafe 2 times a day, while there are small number of students that visit the cafe 4 times per day or more.
Now, I would like to interpret about the pie chart that shows the preferred time of of dining at CFS cafes by student. The most preferred period is 1 p.m. to 3 p.m., which had recorded that 30.2% of the respondents tend to go to the cafe during this hour. This is likely because most of the students like to dine in at cafes during lunchtime. Meanwhile, there are 25.4% of students that like to dine in at cafes at 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. Usually, these students will grab some snacks after 6 p.m. classes. Some of the students will buy their dinner within this period also. Next, there are 22.2% of students that prefer to dine in within the period of 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. This is because the students who would love to have their dinner there. Then, around 20.6% of students prefer to dine in within the period of 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. This is because the students usually will go for lunch only and skip their breakfast. However, only 1.65% of the students, equivalently one responded, only that prefer to take away their foods. Overall, the findings show that most of the students prefer to dine in at cafe within the period of 1 p.m. until 3 p.m., while there are only a small number of students that prefer to take away their foods. That's all from me. Thank you.
So, based on statistics, we can conclude that most students will visit cafe twice a day, typically for lunch and also dinner, where Cafe Aisyah and also Cafe Fatimah will be the most popular cafe due to its variety of menus, while 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. is the most preferred dining time, aligning with lunch hour. Budget constraints influence students who visit cafe only once daily, while a small group visit cafe more than 3 times a day, likely due to their higher spending capacity. Overall, the studies show a strong preference for regular cafe visits, with frequency and choice driven by affordability and also convenience.